Okay, I'm sitting here looking at a lot of the art prints I've completed over the past couple weeks since I made my last video about the gel printing, which I went a little bit into process into the beginning of that one, and then I went into my prints. But now just kind of looking at where my prints are, I feel like I have a couple style notes that I wanted to share if you're trying to develop your artistic style. I feel like gel printing is just a great way to do that because it is very quick and it does give you a very professional looking finish. So you kind of feel a little bit more empowered to continue through. And I think that one of the main takeaways for me is how sort of creative play and allowing yourself to kind of experiment with things that you're not sure about in almost like a throwaway kind of way. And I'll give you the perfect example right now, but just to give you sort of a refresher, this is kind of where I was at in the last video. And I've been printing a lot on pages of a Gothic cathedral coffee table book from the 1960s, which I got secondhand. The pages are 9 by 13 and they're very sturdy, and so it's not only a really great size, but as you can see, you get a lot of really cool sort of like textures if you choose to incorporate the background. So in the last video, I sort of have gotten to a place of, this is just a drawing for my sketchbook that I wanted to, print. This is a photo of a phone. What do you call this? A payphone. Oh my God. I swear I should actually know that because I was around while they were still in use. But then I started kind of experimenting with monochromatic stuff. This is a photo I took in New Orleans, and this is a photo from the inside of the Eiffel Tower. And these kind of started giving me the idea that I wanted to experiment with monochromatic prints. And so keyword being sort of experiment. So this kind of coincided with my mom seeing some of my previous prints and wanting some for her home. So I was like, oh, okay, so how would I sort of take my more bold and colorful prints and make something that my mom, who has very much more, neutral and grays and blues and very, light and cool tones in her home, how could I sort of take this process and incorporate it into that? And that's kind of my second style note, which is sort of thinking of who you're going to share your art with, because since sharing your art is sort of like, an energy exchange, I think there is something really nice about when you share your art and somebody, again, says something. In this case, it was like my mom that wanted a print for herself, and it sort of got my wheels rolling as to how would I sort of interpret this process for something for my mom. So this was kind of like my first experiment going down the monochromatic road, and it's the same exact print I have back here on my wall, but this is just with the gray-green background and black. So again, kind of like coming into this area. This is another version of that on an actual page from the Gothic cathedral book. So this is kind of the first time that I was like, oh wait, I could sort of make these prints into something that, again, would be just a little bit more home decor, which I personally don't have a problem with. And so my mom really loves photos from this trip we took to Paris in 2019, which is also happens to be where I shot that photo of the mannequins. And so this is the first one I started experimenting for her. And so this is the Palace of Versailles. We were out in the gardens. This is a really big statue. And so for this one, I took the gray-green as the background and really just kept it gray and black. And what I like about this process is that it sort of gives it that vintage photo feel. But in this case, it's still sort of like our travel photos, so it's really nice, but I feel like it still has an element that is still artful about it. So it's not just sort of like going to CVS and printing your, vacation photos in black and white. And so this is an actual vacation photo of ours with us in it. And you can kind of see the difference of like, it's sort of incorporating a little bit of the page in the back and, still has that family photo feel. And so a really interesting note about this process is that while I was doing this, on the side, like these sort of prints kept on coming out. And I think it was just like my brain wanting to play with color. And so in a lot of ways, like I usually incorporate that into my process, and there's an image back here that's in that same style. So as I'm sort of working on these, I think it's a really great tip to where you don't have to do everything on one page or in one piece. And what I mean to say by that is that you could pick 1 or 2 colors, maybe 3 colors, and have different, you know, points of view and different points of style within your work. And I feel like even whether it's a family vacation photo, this is also a vacation photo, but it's just a vacation photo of a dumpster. And again, this was just a piece of cardboard that I just didn't give up on, and I turned it yellow, and I used gray green, and I used black, and it just turned into something that I liked. And then the final sort of thing, which I just worked on this morning, and I wanted to sort of share because I kind of love it, and I feel like it molds all of these ideas together. So this is kind of like my second to last art print that I did that I really liked, which was, you know, basically just a classed up version of this. And I mean classed up to the extent that, again, I did the gray background for the photo, so it just looks a little bit more crisp, a little bit more clean, and a little bit more classic. But then sort of still like having this in my brain somehow, I sort of did a little bit of everything in this one, and I just pulled this one off this morning. I worked on it last night, and this is the same phone as one of my earlier prints, but I think the difference is that, first of all, I really was interested in incorporating red back into my work. If you see my previous video, I had a red and yellow print that I really loved, and this is sort of like almost like a before and after, and I love both of these prints, but I think this one is a little bit more my style, not just because it has a little bit more color, but it's just sort of, I feel, is a little bit more balanced, it's a little bit more stylized, it has the edge of like this type of work that I do, but it also sort of has a little bit of the classic aspects of these. And so I think that's the main takeaway, which is that, again, you can sort of develop your different styles separately and then sort of have them come together in maybe one print, but you don't always have to have all of the elements of your own personal style in the print for it to still be you. And you know, that's kind of like my biggest takeaway, that I can make prints for my mom's house, I can make prints for here, I can make prints that are edgy, I can make prints that are classy, but they're all still me and they represent different aspects of my style.